The night after their mother floated into the room with her eyes wrong and her voice silent, the siblings didn't sleep. No one dared mention what they saw. Instead, they sat in the old living room with the oil lamp burning low, casting there, shadows like tall, twisted things on the wall. Timothy's hand shook as he lit a cigarette with trembling fingers. Beth wrapped her arms around herself, her blonde wig slightly askew. Sarah just stared into space, the bone with her name still in her pocket. Patrick paced the floor like a lion stuck in a cage. No one talked about Mama and no one asked if she was real. But they all knew something had shifted. Morning came gray, and heavy, like the sky was mourning, something it couldn't name. Sarah found the letter again, the one with the twisted tree seal. The parchment crackled in her hands. If the bloodline lives, the debt must be paid. She read it aloud. Patrick clenched his jaw. Then we need to find out who made the debt. There's a grave, Beth whispered suddenly. I saw it. It's out back, near the old pepper tree. The others turned. No one's buried there. Timothy said, We would have known. Beth's voice trembled. Then why was it freshly dug? That afternoon, armed with a rusty spade and a machete, Patrick led the way. The backyard was more overgrown than they remembered. Thorny weeds, twisting through forgotten flower beds, the pepper tree stood like a crooked guardian in the corner. Beneath it, the earth was disturbed, a patch of dirt too smooth and too clean. Sarah knelt beside it. Her hands trembled as she brushed away the top layer of soil. Something white poked through. It was a bone. I don't think this is new, she murmured. They began digging. The deeper they went, the colder the ground felt. No animals stirred and not a single bird sang. 6 feet down, Patrick's spade struck something hard. It was a coffin, old wood, rotted through in places but still intact. Beth screamed when a piece of the lid snapped under Patrick's boot and a foul breath of air hissed out from inside. They peeled the lid back slowly. Inside was a body wrapped in oilskin cloth. Whoever, or whatever it was, had been buried without ceremony. Its hands were tied with red thread, its feet painted with symbols, and over its heart buried in its chest was a second bone. This one glowed faintly, like the one Sarah had found. But this one had a different name burned into it, Zuberi. Timothy took a step back. That's Grandpa's brother. He disappeared before we were born. Beth's eyes were wide. I thought he ran away. Sarah shook her head. No. He was buried, or hidden, Patrick added. They were silent. For a moment, the bone pulsed, like a slow heartbeat. Then came the whisper. It was faint and female. It drifted through the trees like smoke. You shouldn't have opened it. All four turned at once. The wind rose, stirring the grass and snapping branches in every direction. The pepper tree's leaves hissed. Shadows swirled at the edges of their vision. Sarah picked up the bone marked Zuberi, and her hand spasmed. She dropped it, and the ground shook. The grave began to close on its own. Dirt shifted back over the coffin, fast and furious, like invisible hands were burying it again. Back, Patrick shouted. Move, they ran, tumbling over each other, as the dirt swallowed the grave hole again. When they finally stopped near the house, panting, bruised, and terrified, they turned. The earth under the pepper tree was untouched once more, like they had never dug, like it had never happened, except Sarah's hands were still dirty. In her coat pocket was now 2 bones, one for Sarah, one for Zuberi. They looked up. A small child stood at the kitchen window, and then a ghostly figure of their mother appeared, but her feet weren't touching the ground, and her eyes still weren't hers.